Hi everyone! Welcome to our very first lesson. Today, let's discuss onboarding in details. So, let's start with our first logical question. What is onboarding? Onboarding, also known as organizational socialization, refers to the mechanism through which new employees acquire the necessary knowledge, skills, and behaviors in order to become effective organizational members and insiders. It is the process of integrating a new employee into the organization and its culture. Why do you need it? Well, an article published in the Harvard Business Review reported that almost 33% of new hires start searching for a new job within 6 months, and 23% of new employees leave their job within the first year. The article suggests that using the wrong technology and the failure to create a coherent onboarding process can leave new employees feeling frustrated. Unfortunately, research has also found that 22% of survey participants had no formal onboarding program. Additionally, where businesses did have an onboarding program, only 28% stated that it was highly successful. Given the importance of onboarding in relation to the retention of quality employees and cost savings, it's critical for business owners to understand what onboarding is and its importance to their organization. In other words, onboarding gets the employee off on the right foot and guides them on the journey. Your onboarding activities can be divided into 4 general sections: hiring, preparation, pre-work, and assimilation. Although you may not come into the picture during the hiring phase, it is important that the future employees' stakeholders are kept in the loop throughout the hiring process. One of the biggest causes of employee dissatisfaction is a disconnect between what the hiring manager said the job was going to be and what the job actually is. You need to make sure that everyone is on the same page about the position's roles, responsibilities, challenges, and opportunities. Now, let's consider benefits of onboarding for your business. Consider these statistics from the Winhurst Group. As you can see, 22% of staff turnover occurs in the first 45 days. The cost of losing an employee in the first year is estimated to be at least 3 times their salary. 25% of Fortune 500 managers change jobs once a year. A well-designed onboarding program can make employees 58% more likely to stay with an organization beyond 5 years. And now, let's consider costs if you lose someone. Remember, there are costs every time you search for someone new for your organization. Not only will you lose productivity while the job is vacant, the interviewing and training process can also consume resources and time. Also, don't forget recurring costs. It is somebody's time to place an advertisement. They must check what the organization is looking for, prepare information, verify copy, send the ad to the newspaper or online media, and then handle phone calls, inquiries, and resumes. There are screening costs. This includes reviewing resumes based on a resume shortlisting guide that has been prepared by someone. There are interviewing costs. This includes time spent contacting candidates, arranging interviews, preparing for the interviews, and conducting them. You'll also need to create, design, and send letters of regret. Testing costs. If you do testing, there is a cost associated with monitoring and rating the tests. Doing group testing? Divide total cost by number of candidates who will be interviewed. Evaluating costs. This includes time spent evaluating, checking references, and making the selection. Offer costs. The cost of making the job offer. Figure in time spent negotiating with the candidate, arranging start date, and other arrangements that must be made before the candidate arrives. Business cards, supplies, locker and keys. Training costs. The money associated with taking the time to meet the candidate, introducing him or her to others, providing an orientation, and providing training. Other costs. As well, consider the cost of reduced efficiency as the new employee learns the job, including time spent by someone answering questions and showing him or her the ropes. There may also be other employee turnover costs associated with your organization. Add these costs up to get the total cost of replacing one employee. This is a recipe for disaster. Creating the onboarding steering team. Hello, welcome back. Let's dive more into details with creating an onboarding process. The importance of onboarding for business in relation to costs and productivity is clear. If you don't currently have an onboarding process, here are some tips to ensure you create one that will increase the chances of your new employees remaining with your business. First and foremost, take time to plan. You've invested heavily in recruiting your new hire, so you should spend time planning what will happen when they arrive at your place of business. Work out when and how your new hire will be trained, how you'll introduce them to the team, which meetings they need to attend, and what projects they will be working on. Then, organize their workspace. If your new hire shows up and their desk or workspace isn't ready, they will immediately feel undervalued. They will perceive this lack of preparation as an indication that you don't care enough about them joining the team. Avoid this poor first impression by working with IT or any other relevant department to get the necessary equipment ready before your new employee starts work. You can make your new employee feel extra special by adding a personal touch, like a welcome banner or plaque. Next, assign a buddy. You should arrange for your new employee to shadow an existing team member. This will help the new employee learn from people who are doing the job and will also help them to build relationships with their colleagues. Use different training options. The onboarding process should last for at least 6 months. Consider using different methods to train your new employee to increase the chances of them retaining the information. You can use a mixture of online and offline methods to train your new hire to ensure that they remain engaged in the onboarding process. And now, let's look at onboarding documents. You can start employee onboarding before your new hire shows up at your place of work by sending them documents to complete in advance. Remember, providing the necessary documentation beforehand saves time when the new employee comes to your workplace. Sending the documents ahead of the start date also shows your new employee that your business is organized and on top of administration tasks. If you opt to send your new employees documents before they start, you should do so using a secure portal rather than email. Set up a time to chat. The following documents must be provided to the new hire during the employee onboarding process. Tax forms, for example, W-4 or W-2. Identification forms, for instance, 1-9, to verify the employee's identity and employment authorization. The new employee must provide valid identification to accompany the form. Direct deposit forms, to ensure that the employee is paid into the correct bank account. Expectations of the job. You should provide your new employee with a copy of the job description and the offer letter as a reminder of what is expected of them. Benefits package. Your new employee will need an overview of the benefits your business offers. They will also need to be notified about health coverage, including enrollment deadlines. Emergency contact details. You should have a designated form to record the details of your new employee's emergency contact in the event that an incident or accident happens at work. Employee handbook. Your new hires should be given a copy of the employee handbook, which covers different aspects of their employment. It's good practice to ask your new employees to sign a form advising that they have read and understood the terms included in the handbook. The employee handbook should be as comprehensive as possible and include information about discrimination, holidays, workplace violence, scheduling process, overtime, dress code, breaks, attendance, pay and wages, confidentiality, email, social media use. Ideally, your organization's onboarding program should be designed by a team with representatives from different horizontal and vertical groups. This will ensure buy-in and support from the entire company. Now, it is your turn. In your company, what might the steering team look like? Think about it. Remember, some people to consider into the team, including a project manager to oversee execution and act as team lead, executive sponsors, department managers, human resource specialists, new employees, employees who have been with the company for 12 to 18 months, employees who have been identified as having high potential to advance in the company. This committee should meet yearly to review the program, look at feedback submitted, and make changes and updates as necessary. You'll want to keep the program fresh, up to date, and in line with organizational and industry changes. Gathering supporting information. Now, let's talk about gathering supporting information for onboarding, orientation, and onboarding. Some business owners use the terms onboarding and orientation interchangeably. However, these two aspects of welcoming new employees are similar but different. Orientation involves introducing new employees to the following elements of your business: vision, values, culture, mission. Orientation usually takes place within the first few days of an employee starting a job. New employees are normally oriented in groups from several departments. Orientation is generally formal and takes place in a meeting room setting with a presenter relaying important information about the business. Leaders sometimes attend the orientation sessions to introduce themselves and talk about their roles. So, a new employee's orientation should include the following elements: a description of the business purpose, values, and vision. Leaders need to take this opportunity to explain how these values translate to their work and what the vision means for the business in a practical sense. All paperwork must be completed. New employees should have access to someone from HR to assist in completing the relevant forms. Someone should explain the benefits package to your new employees. Issues like the type of health coverage, health and safety policies need to be explained to new hires. This part of the orientation should be done by a designated safety officer. New employees should be given a tour of the building to identify the location of fire exits and other safety points. Administrative procedures, such as logins and passwords, can be facilitated by IT personnel. New employees should also be informed about whether they can use their own devices to access business systems. If this is the case, they should be provided with written processes and terms. Orientation is only one part of the onboarding process and provides new employees with the information they should be aware of. Remember, orientation is a one-off event and can be completed within a few days. On the other hand, onboarding takes place over months, and the aim is to motivate new employees to stay with the business and to be invested in their work. Next, identify processes and programs. The team's first task should be to review all processes and programs that will affect or be affected by the onboarding program. We have included a brief list here. Hiring process. How are job openings identified and advertised? How are candidates recruited, interviewed, and selected? How is the offer letter created? How is offer acceptance communicated throughout the organization? Employee setup process. What logistical tasks must be performed? Workspace setup, computer setup, etc.? What security tasks must be performed? Badges, log-on information, etc. What human resource tasks must be performed? Policies to be reviewed, paperwork to fill out, etc. What other processes are in place? Pre-orientation programs. Does the employee receive a welcome letter or package? What does it look like? What information is sent to the employee before the first day? How is it communicated? Orientation programs. What does the current orientation program look like? What training is provided? Onboarding programs. Are there any orientation activities that currently extend beyond the first week? If so, what are they? What resources are provided to employees to continue learning? Tools, online resources, training, etc. Next, identify stakeholders. You should identify the people who own each process. Their support will be key, as parts of their processes may need to change to interact with the onboarding program. Once this is done, you may need to add certain people to the steering team, or they may be comfortable with simply being kept in the loop or being brought in for discussions about their area. Once you have completed your information gathering, create a summary of what your team has learned and what you have envisioned. In addition to listing key processes, programs, and stakeholders, answer these questions. Currently, our onboarding strategy looks like: we typically hire blank employees per year. We would like to focus on these employees. We are currently doing these things well. We need to improve in these areas. We would like our strategy to look like: we are going to measure results by setting goals. Welcome back. Today, we'll discuss in details about how to set goals. Goals will be a large part of your onboarding program. You will have overall goals for the onboarding program. Individuals in the program, as well as their managers, will probably have goals too. However, goals are only useful if they're done right. Good goals should have spirit, where S stands for specific. Be specific about what you want or don't want to achieve. The result should be tangible and measurable. Get all employees up to speed is pretty ambiguous. Data team will be able to enter 100 records per day by the end of the first week of onboarding is more specific. P stands for prizes. Provide rewards at different points in the goal, particularly if it's long-term. Employees who do better than average at training, for example, might receive a company t-shirt. I, individual. The goal must be something that is relevant to the employee's job and something that the employee is willing to work on. Always tie the goal back to a business or personal result. R, review. Review progress periodically. Does the goal make sense? Are you stuck? Do you need to adjust certain parts of the goal? I, inspiring. Frame the goal positively. Make it fun to accomplish. Your team could make a poster of the end result, frame it, and post it on the wall. T, time bound. Give yourself a deadline for achieving the goal. Even better, split the goal into small parts and give yourself a deadline for each item. The most important benefit of setting goals isn't achieving your goal. It's what you do and the person you become in order to achieve your goal that's the real benefit. Goal setting is powerful because it provides focus. It shapes our dreams. It gives us the ability to hone in on the exact actions we need to perform, to achieve everything we desire in life. Goals are great because they cause us to stretch and grow in ways that we never have before. In order to reach our goals, we must become better. Life is designed in such a way that we look long-term and live short-term. We dream for the future and live in the present. Unfortunately, the present can produce many difficult obstacles, but setting goals provides long-term vision in our lives. Here's a closer look at goal setting and how you can make it forceful and practical. Evaluate and reflect. The only way we can reasonably decide what we want in the future and how we'll get there is to know where we are right now and what our current level of satisfaction is. So first, take some time to think through and write down your current situation. Then, ask this question on each key point. Is that okay? The purpose of evaluation is twofold. First, it gives you an objective way to look at your accomplishments and your pursuit of the vision you have for life. Secondly, it shows you where you are so you can determine where you need to go. Evaluation gives you a baseline to work from. Next, define your dreams and goals. One of the amazing things we have been given as humans is the unquenchable desire to have dreams of a better life and the ability to establish and set goals to live out those dreams. We can look deep within our hearts and dream of a better situation for ourselves and our families. We can dream of better financial, emotional, spiritual, or physical lives. So, ask yourself, what are your dreams and goals? This isn't what you already have or what you have done, but what you want. Have you ever really sat down and thought through your life values and decided what you really want? Have you ever taken the time to truly reflect, to listen quietly to your heart, to see what dreams live within you? Your dreams are there. Everyone has them. They may live right on the surface, or they may be buried deep. Take time to be quiet. This is something that we don't do enough of in this busy world of ours. We rush, and we're constantly listening to noise all around us. The human heart was meant for times of quiet, to peer deep within. It is when we do this that our hearts are set free to soar and take flight on the wings of our own dreams. Schedule some quiet dream time this week. No other people, no cell phone, no computer, just you, a pad, a pen, and your thoughts. Let the thoughts fly and take careful record. Think about what really thrills you. When you are quiet, think about those things that really get your blood moving. What would you love to do? What big thoughts move your heart into a state of excitement and joy? When you answer these questions, you will feel great, and you will be in the dream zone. It is only when we get to this point that we experience what our dreams are. Write down all of your dreams as you have them. Now, prioritize those dreams. Which are most important? Which are most feasible? Which would you love to do the most? Put them in the order in which you will actually try to attain them. Remember, we are always moving toward action, not just dreaming. Have accountability. When someone knows what your goals are, they hold you accountable by asking you to give an account of where you are in the process of achieving that goal. Accountability puts some teeth into the process. If a goal is set and only one person knows it, does it really have any power? Many times, no. A goal isn't as powerful if you don't have one or more people who can hold you accountable to it. Developing the framework. Hello, thanks for being part of this session. Let's look into developing the general framework of onboarding. Phases of onboarding. The bulk of the program development work will be identifying which tasks should be completed when. Typically, there are 5 distinct phases: pre-work, first day, first week, first month, first year. This will, of course, change depending on what position you are onboarding. The program for executives, for example, may last 2 years, while a position for a data entry clerk may only last 3 months. Here, we are trying to provide a basic framework that participants can work with. Types of activities. Your onboarding program can communicate information in a few different ways. Next is a mentor, coach, or buddy. Interpersonal support can be provided in a few ways. A mentor is the most involved type of support person. Their goal is to interact with the new employee and to help them develop personally and professionally. A coaching program is similar, but focuses on the employee's job-related skills. Finally, a buddy is like a tour guide, helping the new employee find their way around the new workplace and find information. Departmental or company orientation. These sessions tell the employee about who the organization or department is, what their mission statement is, what their goals are, what they do, and where they are going. Think of it as the life and times of XYZ company, or all about the accounting department. Next is job-specific training. It is often useful to provide training on specific skills. These can be technical skills, using Microsoft Word, entering data into the database program, or softer skills, coaching and performance management. During the onboarding process, the manager must check in with the employee on a regular basis. The manager's role is to ensure that team members are on board with the onboarding plan. The plans may need to be adjusted, or the employee may need additional support. Pre-work. You want to have employees complete as much of the administrative work as they can before the first day. This shows that you are eager to have them start and that you take their job seriously. It will also help them feel more prepared and ease their nervousness. Pre-work tasks for the manager might include completing internal hiring processes, filling out paperwork, getting employees log-on information for the network and security clearance, setting up their workspace, communicating the new employee's start date, who they will be reporting to, and their responsibilities, completing a draft onboarding plan for the employee. And now, let's look at pre-work tasks for the employee that might include filling out paperwork, doing self-paced training, reviewing job descriptions, policies, procedures, company reports, etc., getting their personal life settled so that they can focus on the new job, completing a draft onboarding plan. About a week before the employee is scheduled to start, the manager sets up a meeting with the employee. This meeting has 3 objectives: meet and greet, answer any questions that the employee has, review the onboarding plans, and finalize it. At this time, the manager should also provide a quick start guide for the first day and would say how to dress, where to park, where to go, and what the day will look like. Creating an onboarding plan template. Earlier, we mentioned that a personalized plan should be sent to an employee before they start work. This template should be developed as part of the design process. It must be specific enough to gather necessary information, but flexible enough to be used for any new employee. The template should include basic information, such as the employee's start date, their role, their department, and their supervisor. 2-line job description. List of stakeholders that they will meet. Summary of pre-work. Summary of Day 1 and Week 1 events and tasks. Training plan. Goals for the first 30, 60, and 90 days. This template should be completed by the employee and by their manager during the pre-work process. Try not to give the employees specific directions when asking them to fill out the plan. This way, you can see their level of initiative and how detail-oriented they are. So, let's start with Day 1. An employee's first day is arguably the most important one. You only get one chance to make a first impression. A typical first day should look like this. The employee arrives at the office on time and is greeted by the manager. Any security policies are completed. Most companies will only issue an ID card on the start date, for example. The manager introduces the employee to their mentor, their colleagues, and key stakeholders. The manager gives the employee a brief tour of the office, highlighting personal storage, lunchrooms, washrooms, and fire exits. Here, mention what employees usually do for lunch. If possible, schedule a special welcome lunch with the employee's colleagues. The manager and the employee review the onboarding plan, focusing on tasks for the first day and week. They should also review key procedures, such as network access, email, voicemail, safety procedures, emergency plans, etc. The employee takes part in a company and departmental orientation. The manager confirms that the employee has completed all necessary paperwork. The employee works on Day 1 tasks, supported by a mentor if needed. The manager checks in with the employee at the end of the day. At this stage, let's look at Week 1. The goal of the first week should be to slowly start transitioning employees into normal work. The employee should also begin to build relationships with stakeholders and work on assignments. Checking in. Gathering constant, comprehensive feedback about the onboarding process is very important, particularly during the employee's first few days. If there are any issues, it is best to know about them as soon as possible so that they can be resolved quickly. Please have a look at this sample scale. Useful open-ended questions. You can use these questions to gauge the employee's overall experience and mood. What was your favorite thing about this week? What was your least favorite thing about this week? What would you change for future employees? How would you rate your first week on a scale of 1, terrible, to 10, amazing? Describe your week in one word. And now, Month 1. During the first month, the employee will continue working through their onboarding plan, focusing on Month 1 goals. Working with their mentor, coach, or buddy, if applicable, to achieve goals and complete assignments. Adapting to their new role. Building relationships with colleagues and stakeholders. Completing training, if applicable. Checking in with their manager at least once per week. Bringing any issues to their manager that they need help resolving. A formal onboarding review should take place at the end of the first month. There are many types of reviews, most of which resemble performance reviews, which it is in a sense. Your first step is to prepare a short evaluation form. We recommend short, objective questions that can be answered yes or no, or subjective questions that can be answered using a simple scale. Example 1. Example 2. Invite the employee, their coach, and any other stakeholders to a half-hour meeting. Ask them to complete the evaluation form beforehand. Then, compile a list of positive feedback and constructive criticism. Semi-annual and annual reviews. The remainder of the employee's first year should be spent completing training, developing skills, building relationships with stakeholders, and transitioning to a 100% focus on job assignments. You will want evaluations from the employee on the effectiveness of the onboarding program, how they feel about their decision to join the organization, how the organization is meeting their expectations, wants, and needs, percentage of onboarding plan achieved, with specific questions on goals and training completed, lessons learned about the program, what they would change, what they would tell a new employee, specific job objectives, their next steps to transition out of the program, whether or not they would like to be a buddy in the future. The employee's coach or buddy and manager should evaluate the effectiveness of the onboarding program, how the employee is meeting the organization's expectations, percentage of onboarding plan achieved, with specific questions on goals and training completed, lessons learned about the program, what they would change, how the employee is meeting specific job objectives, their next steps to transition out of the program, whether or not the employee would be a suitable buddy in the future. Customizing the framework. Hi there. Today, let's discuss the whole process of customizing the framework in onboarding. So, here it is. 30 days. Learn. The first 30 days of onboarding are completely about learning. It doesn't matter to me how fast your company is growing, how many pieces you're moving, or how many bodies you need. Employees need to learn to do the job, to do it well. With that said, learning doesn't have to mean sending new hires to all-day lectures or training seminars. The 70-20-10 leadership development model suggests learning comes from 70% challenging projects, 20% coaching and mentorship, and 10% structured learning. In other words, in those first 30 days, your new hires can spend 70% of their time working on hard projects the company needs solved. However, to do so successfully, they need the coaching and mentoring along with the formal training. To create the optimal conditions for learning, build preparation and acceleration into onboarding. Preparation encompasses a huge amount of the onboarding process and sets the tone for the overall employee experience. This is where you provide all the tools, information, and connections needed for hires to truly acclimate. In the preparation phase, it's critical to make sure that on day one, new employees know where they're supposed to be, who they're supposed to meet with, and what they're supposed to do. Send all this information in a welcome email at least 24 hours before their first day. One-on-ones. Set up small one-on-one meetings throughout the first month to welcome your hires into the organization. Provide an overview of culture, what behaviors are celebrated, tolerated, and forbidden. Set expectations around roles and responsibilities. Acceleration. In the first 30 days, you want to accelerate learning as efficiently as possible. That often means combating a bias towards action. As Michael W. Watkins warns in The First 90 Days, don't fall prey to action imperative. Defining the what and the why of the role is necessary to quickly surface the best how. To accelerate learning in your hires, employ these targeted methods. Discovery meetings. Arrange meetings with believable experts in areas new hires will touch, as well as some they won't. These informational meetings will educate them on how people approach problems across departments and disciplines, allowing them to avoid the blank page problem. Business training. Whether you go heavy or light on training, there is one session that is absolutely critical to accelerating learning. That's a business strategy overview meeting where you train employees on the business itself, company architecture, strategic and/or business plan, and marketing conditions. This training should be interactive and prompt participants to ask questions and contribute new ideas to demonstrate understanding. Learning-based projects. These encompass a broad set of categories, but generally comprise projects that involve job shadowing, collaborations with experienced employees, and most importantly, research. 60 days build. Learning doesn't stop after the first 30 days, but instead continues in tandem with the act of building. In some ways, building is just an extension of learning, where you trust new employees to dig deeper into the responsibilities themselves and engage in more independent work. This phase is where they begin to build social ties, frameworks, and a collection of early wins to propel them into successful execution once onboarding is complete. In this 30-day block, they should focus on strategy, development, and implementation. So, let's start with strategy. Once new hires get the information they need, they should engage formal compilation and review. Their notes from discovery meetings, readings, and research should become findings on which they start to base more nuanced assumptions, hypotheses, questions, and ideas about the business and the challenges they've been hired to tackle. This generally looks like a market analysis presentation, marketing audit, or research review session. This way, employees take their sources, along with their own original thought, and present what they've learned in a 60 to 90-minute presentation. This framework keeps employees focused on their own personal growth as a means of growing the business. Development. Now that a strategy is set, new employees take that strategy and use it to develop solutions to problems or opportunities for growth in real life. Implementation. Implementation takes those tests from development and expands their search. This is where employees begin to fire on all cylinders and execute against the responsibilities they were hired to fill. Notably, they might not yet fulfill all their responsibilities. The goal is to go deeper rather than wide during onboarding, because the lessons learned about the way the organization functions will lay the foundation for all future work. It's about getting it right first. That's why implementation is all about securing early wins. 90 days. Do. In the last 30-day block, new hires are empowered and expected to do more than anything else. They should be measured according to milestones, and they should understand they will be judged on outcomes as much as thinking and process. Still, with just 2 months under their belts, forgive mistakes. Better yet, forgive certain kinds of mistakes. It's fine if new employees make mistakes based on lack of historical information, shaky skills with new systems or processes, or even lack of expertise in an area. But it's not fine if they don't follow company rules, disrespect stakeholders, turn in sloppy or late work, or fail to communicate appropriately around deadlines or to key stakeholders. Remember, this is the honeymoon period. Attitude and commitment should not be a problem. It's the employee's responsibility to inform you of any extenuating circumstances that might result in bad behavior. Even then, take bad behavior seriously. Cultivate. At this point, employees do more than ask for help. They, in turn, are helpful. They build true trust on teams, and depending on the role, even build their own teams to oversee and manage. If the role involves external stakeholders, such as partners or clients, this is when they begin managing them on their own. Unroll. At this point, early wins pay off, and employees can begin to go wide and assume more types of responsibilities while working towards longer-term goals. Evaluate. Whether you do quarterly, annual, or even real-time performance evaluations, the last step in onboarding is always evaluation. Create a scorecard if you don't have one already, and complete an assessment of performance over the last 90 days. Have the employee complete a self-assessment. Then, compare notes in a candid conversation around performance. This is where you look at strengths and opportunities for improvement and get feedback from the employee on the same. It's also where you recalibrate on the KPIs and milestones going forward to make sure you are still aligned. If you are no longer aligned, reset expectations and explain why they've been reset. Measuring results. Hello, welcome to this section. Let's discuss today about the areas of your organization where you hope to see improvement in from an onboarding program. So, what areas might your organization hope to see improvement in from an onboarding program? While numbers are important, the numbers aren't the entire story, especially when it comes to onboarding, because it can take months for a new hire to become fully socialized and productive. It's possible the numerical results won't show up immediately. That's why other methods need to be employed. During the onboarding process, human resources can conduct focus groups with new hires to find out their impressions. Again, new hires have a fresh set of eyes on the organization. This is a great opportunity for organizations to solicit feedback. In addition, organizations can use pulse surveys to obtain quick feedback about an aspect of the onboarding process. Pulse surveys are typically short and sent frequently to get a pulse on how the new hire is feeling. A couple of questions that might be asked include, on a scale from 1 to 10, 1, definitely not, 10, absolutely. How likely are you to recommend working at the company to a friend? What was the best and worst part of your week? Of course, another way to gauge employee satisfaction is through the company's annual engagement survey. Benchmark items can be created to help understand how employees feel about the organization. This is a long-term method of measurement, but it still contains value. At this stage, let's look at stay interviews. Somewhat related to feedback, stay interviews are questions that ask employees why they stay with the organization. This includes asking how the onboarding process helped employees. Managers typically ask these questions as part of one-on-one meetings, annual performance reviews, or a standalone meeting to discuss the subject. Exit interviews. Where stay interviews address the reasons employees stay, exit interviews are designed to find out why employees started looking for a new opportunity. Organizations have an opportunity to ask about onboarding to determine if it was effective in preparing the employee for work. Regardless of the feedback method, it's important to note that when an employee provides feedback, they are doing it in the spirit of being helpful and wanting change. Organizations need to be prepared to address an employee's comments, even if it's to say that the suggestion isn't currently possible. Use data and feedback to evaluate onboarding success. We've talked about a handful of methods to measure the company's onboarding programs, and this isn't a complete list. Don't let it deter your evaluation efforts. Organizations don't have to use all of these methods to determine if the onboarding program is successful. Use an evaluation method that aligns with your culture. If you're a numbers company, use quantitative methods. If you're a storytelling company, use qualitative methods. It's really awesome when you can use both. Whatever approach you take, align results with goals. If the goal is retention, turnover can be a measure. Or possibly stay interviews. If the goal is engagement, employee surveys can offer insight, maybe employee referrals. Think both short and long term. Orientation and onboarding programs are designed to make new hires productive faster. That's important to the business. However, strategic onboarding programs are an investment. The good news is that they are an investment that pays off huge over the employee life cycle. Instead of waiting until an employee proves themselves to provide training and development, provide the training and development first in the form of onboarding. The investment engages the employee, makes them productive faster. Now it is your turn. Please provide the answers in your own understanding. What areas might your organization hope to see improvement in from an onboarding program? How might you measure those benefits? 10 ways to make your program unique. Hi, welcome back. Today, let's look at the subject, ways you are going to make your program unique. Firstly, separate onboarding and orientation. The two processes, onboarding and orientation, may seem similar, at least superficially, but they aren't at all. Orientation should be the primary introduction of a new hire to the physical being of your company, including its employees, the buildings, its workstations, and so on. However, it is not a substitute for a well-planned onboarding process. So here are 10 ways for you to make your onboarding process unique. Number 1. Apply your employees' authentic strengths. Understand that no two employees are alike. By identifying key aspects of how individual employees operate, you can personalize the onboarding process and build a long-term plan concerning how and where to fit that employee into the overall company. Number 2. Facilitate introductions. Stats also recognizes that no man is an island, and no woman works in a vacuum. That's why business introductions are so important. These don't have to be formal occasions such as business lunches, especially if you're working with hourly retail associates. But bringing your new hire into contact with influential employees within the company will begin the process of integration. Number 3. Keep it simple. One of the biggest obstacles that employees face during the onboarding experience is simply information overload. There's so much to learn and experience that it can be overwhelming to assimilate all of the new information. In order to make the process as easy as possible, onboarding should be scheduled well and tailored to suit the learning speed of the individual. Number 4. Give it time. Although onboarding is often confused for orientation, it's much more involved than that. You're, in essence, acclimating new hires to positions you expect them to hold for some time. Therefore, you should be ready and willing to spend enough time on the process to do the job right. Number 5. Make it interactive. Unidirectional onboarding sessions, such as videos or slideshow presentations, are not only outdated, they just don't work. While a small portion of individuals learn well using this mechanism, far more learn hands-on in an interactive fashion. As a result, the employee should be expected to interact with various trainers and onboarding messages, as well as ask questions for clarification or expansion of ideas. Onboarding simply isn't a one-way street. Number 6. Use metrics to assess progress. You'll never know how effective your onboarding process is without some sort of testing. Having a standardized metric system in place will allow you to assess an individual's progress, as well as examine the process itself in case it needs to be modified. Number 7. Hold new hires accountable. While new hires are new to the company, they are still employees and should be held accountable for their actions, including engaging in the onboarding process. You can allow some leeway in order to grade on the curve, so to speak. But your new hires should not be allowed to get away with things that other employees would be reprimanded or even demoted for. Number 8. Keep it personal. Every new hire or transfer comes from a different background, possesses different authentic strengths, and suffers unique weaknesses. As tempting as it is to have a standardized onboarding system, you have to allow for flexibility, and not just in terms of time frames. By tailoring the entire process, including the types of interactions your employees have, you can expedite the process and create a win-win situation in which your new hires learn faster and are able to stand on their own 2 feet sooner. Number 9, keep it individual. Similarly, it's tempting to lump a bunch of new hires together in order to get the most bang for your onboarding buck. However, this isn't a good idea. To do so, you'd have to postpone the process for some and rush it for others. Additionally, catering to individuals becomes almost impossible, as does measuring progress, when you're dealing with an entire group of people. This type of onboarding could also lead to interpersonal confrontations and long-lasting attitude adjustments that could be harmful in the long run. Number 10, make it social. While onboarding is necessarily an individual process, it shouldn't be exclusive. Your employees won't work in a vacuum when they've been trained, so make the experience a social one. Not only will this help the actual on-the-job training, it will allow employees to build social bonds, connect to the company, and begin to adjust their own long-term goals with new positions in mind. By taking the time to fully train and incorporate a new hire or transfer, rather than just getting them up to speed, you're investing in the future of your company. Not only are fully onboarded employees generally happier in their jobs, they're more likely to stay on for the long haul. Case study analysis. Group case studies. Hello, and welcome to the last session of this course. Let's talk about the case study analysis. What it is. With an onboarding study, we analyze the process from start to finish, such as evaluating what happens before the first day program planning, mission, vision and goals communication strategies, job expectation and goal dialogue, culture integration, and newcomer to coworker and supervisor assimilation. This type of analysis identifies major areas for improvement in the onboarding process and is imperative to creating a lasting, positive employee experience. An onboarding study is a vital part of an overall employment engagement strategy and can mean the difference in a productive, passionate employee and a bored, disengaged, lonely one. In a recent study by Gallup, actively disengaged employees aren't just unhappy at work. They're busy acting out their unhappiness. Every day, these workers undermine what their engaged coworkers accomplish. You can avoid the creation of a disengaged employee and begin a career at your company the best way by using a regular onboarding study program. Why you need it. Considering that 1 in 25 people leave a new job just because of a poor or no onboarding program, companies are losing thousands upon hundreds of thousands of dollars in recruiting and hiring costs. An onboarding study program is a critical part of employee engagement and retention, and can be the difference between an employee that leaves and one that stays. While companies may recognize the importance of a proper onboarding experience, they often fall flat when it comes to providing a truly valuable experience throughout the first 90 days. Using a regular onboarding study program identifies areas that need improvement in the onboarding process. And now, let's look at case study situation. FHN, First Horizon National, is a 146-year-old U.S. financial services and bank holding company based in Memphis, Tennessee. FHN was growing rapidly nationwide, and by 2008, it had more than 13,000 employees. And then, The 2008 economic collapse forced Finn to downsize. The company sold off its mortgage business, which made up roughly 50% of the employee base. It also sold some additional smaller business units, reducing the employee headcount to 5,700 employees. FHN HR staff suffered a 40% staff reduction, going from 150 to 90 employees. The HR department made efficiency a priority. HR was tasked with finding ways to do the same work with fewer people. So, HR Strategic Project Manager Karen Sones focused full-time on evaluating and assessing HR systems and technology to determine existing gaps and create an efficiency plan. Mission here is to make new employees productive faster, and retaining them became more critical. The reduced headcount meant less time for upfront job prep. Employees had to learn fast and become a productive employee quickly. The HR department had been tracking quick quits, or employees leaving within the first year of employment. The number was on the rise. Ramping up new employees is costly and time-consuming, especially with the dire financial situation. So, a directional change had to take place with new hires. Onboarding is a process that touches new hires from the first steps of recruitment through the first months of the job, with the ultimate goal of making new hires productive quickly and retaining them as employees. Finn's Karen Sones says that onboarding can be boiled down to 3 words: acquiring, assimilating, and accelerating new hires into the culture. She notes that it's a process, and the steps include fast-tracking new hires through all the paperwork, providing them the right training, getting them into performance plans and goals, and making sure they are clear about what's expected of them in their job and within the company culture. FHN had already implemented Ultimate's core HR recruitment and salary planning applications, so it chose Ultimate Software's UltiPro onboarding application to meet its needs. As you can see, Finn's onboarding process starts early, even before employment. Potential employees search and apply for appropriate positions online. Recruiters monitor potential new hires from the first time they show interest in employment on the website. The recruiter follows the candidate through the interviewing, the offer, and the rest of the pre-employment period.